everybody. Well, welcome back to the Sin Dieta Collective, the podcast where we talk about all things food, bodies, health, through a lens that is culturally responsive, weight inclusive, and rooted in care, not diet culture. So we'll just do a quick round of introductions. I'm Stacey Ray, pronouns she, her. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist based here in LA.
Yep, and I'm Christina, registered dietitian, also pronouns she, her, and I'm based in Chicago.
And I'm Nicolette. I use she, her pronouns. I am a nurse practitioner and I'm based in Colorado.
And I'm Veronica. I am an associate clinical social worker here in California, and I also use pronouns she, her, and ella.
Yeah.
Gotta throw that one in there.
Had to, yes. That's appropriate. So today's episode, if you've heard about the new food pyramid recently that rolled out, or if you ever even looked at the food pyramid and felt confused, judged, or like it didn't really fit or reflect your culture, you're definitely not alone. Today we're going to be breaking down the new food pyramid, what has changed, why it still misses the mark, and how our communities can reclaim it and make it their own. So to start us up for today, Nicolette's going to give us a little bit of the history, and then we'll work our way forward.
Sweet. Yeah. Because you all know, well, if you've listened to other stuff, I do like to talk about the context and origins of stuff, because I think that really opens up a lot of eyes on realizing like where the heck this stuff came from and how do we unravel it or throw it away if we have to. So history of this. When we talk about the food pyramid or the My Pyramid or the MyPlate, it really isn't just talking about nutrition. I think it's deeply rooted. It's talking about history, power, and whose bodies that information was centered and how to define healthy eating. So initially, the modern U.S. food pyramid that we can think of with our old textbooks was released in 1992 by the USDA, which is the Department of Food and Agriculture. So it's really important to remember that because they're not really just about health. It's also about supporting their food industries. So make note of that. So it was first created then. Going a little bit further back, there were earlier versions of some food guidances of like what people should be eating, going as early as back as the early 1900s. Those were created during times when there was a lot of war and or economic scarcity. So like not a lot of food or money going around for people. So the goal for them wasn't about joy, culture, health, well-being with food. That info was really just for preventing starvation and how to survive eras of war and issues going on and to avoid nutritional deficiencies. So, and keep in mind too, the people who were creating this generally were mostly white, middle to upper class men with very Eurocentric frameworks of food to show what people should be eating. So it really already was a very narrow, range of what foods were typically healthy and what people should be eating. So foods such as like wheat, dairy, meat were very central. We're making it seem like it was universal. So obviously that was not including other communities, which basically everyone else in the world. So our Latin communities, indigenous peoples, Black communities, immigrants, disabled folks in other socioeconomic statuses. The issue with this is that it was creating categories, right? A hierarchy of food with like the best foods that you should eat in the bottom and then the stuff that narrowed down to being the least. And really secretly and quietly that was creating some food labeling. Moving forward now, right, to the 2000s, the food pyramid really wasn't about health per se. I mean, they were really focused about chronic illnesses and they were, I think, trying to put more control into trying to narrow down what foods are good or bad because there were worries about overweight, obesity, you name it. And with that, it was creating even more of a diet culture. So then we did have the My Pyramid, but it was kind of doing the same thing, just different visuals. And then the MyPlate. All of these new forms still were not very inclusive or trauma informed. And again, not considering the other diverse range of people that we have with their considerations. So with that, I feel like I had another idea with this. Other things it ignored was food insecurity. And I know we're all going to talk a little bit about that. And so with the new food pyramid, the intention was to dismantle some of the old science, because we have new science now about what is healthier, right? We know fats are good. We know proteins are good. I think they went a little overboard with like a lot of heavy influence and emphasis on meats, and there was a little bit of diversity of what protein means. But unfortunately, they kind of narrow down other foods that were maybe now considered labeled as you should eat less of it if you look at the new pyramid. Again, this is all really not including foods that may not fit into these categories that other cultures eat. So for example, I think about like plantains, my plátanos, stews, which have all the foods in one, corn-based foods, tortillas. And so again, it's just really still very exclusive in my opinion. And again, stems from such a very narrowed focus of based on the history of what I said of where how food and nutrition should be. So I just wanted to share if these food guides are stressful, confusing, or unhelpful in anyone's recovery, no, it's not a failure on your end, but these were not designed for healing, with healing in mind too. So I just want to preface with that. And I'm ready to jump in more with you all.
Yeah, I'll jump in there of like how it wasn't necessarily just made for like health reasons, right? Like I think there's a lot of influence, like you said, by like the agriculture, like uh, business sector, right? Like what they need to sell, what they're not selling. I think very much about like when we were all young, like the 90s, like got milk advertisements on how it was like really, really pushing milk to in order to support the ranchers who were, who were having ranches of cows and wanting to sell and all those things and selling it as like this high calcium supplement basically. And then fast forward to now when we have more like non-dairy milk options, we're actually realizing those things actually have way higher calcium actually. Right. So it was never really about like just getting this product because it's good for health, but it's really good for certain economies and how that really influences this, unfortunately, how it influences the government of what they decide they need to do and not. And this is obviously like not new where like the government is influenced by who pays them money. It's just like it's important to be kind of how Nico worded it, like a critical thinker as to like why are they pushing these specific products, because it's not just altruistic around health.
Yeah. I'll also add that, like, I guess zooming out and then zooming back in, like the changes, they're basically taking previous versions and they have flipped it upside down, right? And so a lot of that comes with different organization of certain food groups on the pyramid, and we're seeing like first thing front and center, the meat section has grown. They're like depicting these large cuts of meat, which again, protein is fine, there's anything wrong with it, but they're not getting to the nuance of it. A lot of the times people learn through like very simple visuals, very easy to remember snapshots, and nobody's going to go in and take a look at what do these actually represent. A lot of people don't even have the possibly like education to decipher what it is that it means, and nowhere here is it highlighted that you should look at these and also make sure you can digest this with somebody else that understands and can explain it to you. Like that section alone, they're already doubling the recommended protein intake. We already have enough of that with diet culture talking about make sure you eat your protein first. Protein this, protein that. Like, okay.
Right. And even what protein looks like. Right?
Exactly. What does it
like
look like?
No one's talking about eat more beans.
Yeah. What quality versus quantity we can get out of it, and how unsafe is it actually for somebody to now consume double the protein without considering what medications are they possibly on, what health conditions are they dealing with? Is that going to create a load on their kidneys or their bones or any of that? No, who cares? Just consume the meat.
Yeah. And I think, Nico, you might feel free to jump in once I say what I'm going to say, because I think this is to maybe a point you were going to say earlier of like when like the food pyramid in itself is supposed to be used as an educational tool when people don't have any direction, right? And so we're using an educational tool that is influenced by money basically, but that money is also spent on what people who are dependent on like food stamps and things like that, what they're able to access. And to Christina's point, when we're talking about we have such a diverse populations, and when we think about low income too, it's also like low access to medical care and health care, right? But they're only allowed now to eat or to access to even be allowed to go buy these items, and how that really influence or can really be damaging to health.
And I know that's been a big topic now with the changes, is like, what does that mean with what's going to be covered, let alone the accessibility has been more limited, but what is it? And I think about that with schools too, when you were mentioning like the got milk, such an emphasis on always having milk, always having these food groups that were in the food pyramid. And like, well, what does that mean now? Are you going to shift it? But also, what is the best answer that really serves all the diverse needs of people, kids?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think too, it really doesn't do too great of a job at also talking about the implications it has, like environmentally, socioeconomically, like protein being emphasized that much is like very largely known. It is so taxing on the environment, right? Like, why are we not also pushing, like Stacey was talking about, the beans, the canned varieties, the combinations, so that we have complementary foods that are still giving you a whole nutritional profile?
Yeah. Why is that? Yeah. Especially why that isn't reflected on the visual. Because I know in prepping for this talk today, we were actually obviously reading through with Christina about it, and it's like they're still recommending X amount of grains, but it's not reflective in how they showed it in the pyramid. So now people are getting this image, right, which is probably a little bit more powerful for most people than the words. This image of what we should be having in grains is like sprinkled at the bottom. I think it's literally like 4 little pieces of avena, but it's like the literature is actually saying that you need still like 2 to 3 servings of it. So I know this. I don't know if we want to segue into the MyPlate part, where like I'm not surprised, but I don't think all of these pieces are even matching, even for what they are saying.
Yeah, no, they're not. It's in there. Like, nobody's gonna click on it. Like you said, that you still need your 2 to 4 servings of grains. Eating disorders already cut grains and carbs first, right off the bat. And you're just reinforcing that it's okay to minimize those, when our body was designed to primarily strive on carbs.
Oh, and
for sure.
we touched up. Oh, sorry, go Veronica.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, for sure. Like, even just, and I wish like we could share like the pyramid, and I'm sure we'll probably link it to this episode so everybody could see. But it's just like, for even those, right, visuals like send so much more of a deeper message. Like, honestly, I know we were reading through some of it last night, but it's like, visually, if I were to just go based off of the pyramid, like, that's cutting out so many other things, or saying like certain dishes that maybe are really popular or have a lot of value to us, like in our culture, are like being really minimized by this plate. One thing we poked fun at when we're looking at this freaking pyramid was like, why the fuck is the broccoli so big? Like, why is the broccoli so big? And why is there like a big old whole ass chicken? Like, who eats like that? Like, realistically, we're just like, why? And then
like
it's
Norman
just,
Rockwell painting.
Yes, and it just really highlights again like what they are emphasizing on. And back to what you were saying, Christina, Nico, and Stacy, is like, this only exacerbates and gives like disordered eating an okay go ahead. Right? Like, I could already start picturing in my mind like, oh, but I followed the food pyramid. But did you though? It wasn't really created for us though. So again, just that westernized framework, trying to squeeze ourselves in something that was not built for us. Nico, you made a great point, right? Historically, it was built because of like, to prevent famine, to prevent, right, starvation. So if we think about it in that way, we currently right now are not in those times, and may we never get back to those times, but we need to start shifting that lens a little bit more and realize that perhaps maybe having one single blanket like food upside down pyramid now is not enough. Maybe we need subsystems or sub pyramids, right, that fit a little bit more different communities and cultures that we see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think advancing to the whole point of MyPlate, when you started bringing that up, Stacey, like, That also has its own issues. The whole like, let me divide it up so that each little portion has this part of the food group. That's unrealistic, right? Like you're supposed to divide it so that like half of it is fruits and vegetables, the other half is split between protein and grains. But I don't think people are really thinking of what's missing in that being, how does this help address your hunger cues? Where is the pleasure and satisfaction? And they're baking in assumptions of everyone eats three structured meals and everyone can benefit from the same portions alone, not accounting for what their lifestyle is. We're probably repeating this word over and over, what they have access to and what their plates look like. Some people eat from bowls exclusively. Some people wrap their food in other things, and it's not going to display everything on a plate.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
Especially so like cookie cut, right? And then it's like what's the Instagram? Your Latina nutritionist talks a lot about like she talks a lot about how people have like demonized white rice.
Yes, they
Basically,
do.
right. And how yeah, people eat plain white rice, but like a lot of the time you are eating it with a bunch of other things. No one is really just truly eating a bowl of like white rice, and what you add to it really helps and changes what is it called, like the hypoglycemic index or something like that, someone please correct me,
Yeah.
but where it like really changes how your body's able to digest and like process
Yeah.
insulin and the glucose and all of that. But how the plate model actually doesn't create space for that. Like it doesn't actually teach you like how these, and again, like it's probably a little bit more complex, but like it doesn't really teach you how to mix your foods. But like a lot of cultures already do that, minus maybe like just like very American westernized culture where it's like
Separated.
chicken, rice, vegetable, I don't know. I'm trying to think besides chicken, rice, vegetable, but that's like the main one, or like meat and potatoes, right? It's like very this, and this. It's not like a blend of those things, unless you have something like a casserole, which I'm sure there's a whole history lesson on this, which is like typically like a vegetable and a fat, right? Like a vegetable and a cream, or a vegetable and a cream, or like
Either
I'm
way.
trying to think of like those types of casserole dishes are really the only time I've seen like blending of things,
Or a starch and a cream.
or a starch and a cream, right?
Yeah.
I think
Versus
about stews. I'm like, how am I gonna eyeball that? Everything's in one bowl and hidden, but I'm gonna eat it. Maybe it's mostly meat this time. I don't know, but it's something that my family. I eat that a lot in Ecuador. We have a lot of hearty stews, but no one's looking about the MyPlate or my bowl.
yeah.
See.
And like this might be too far out in the world for this episode, but like I even think of like for stuff like stews, it's like historically been like a poor man's meal, where you're just getting the leftovers that are in your fridge or that people don't want, that are cheap, that you can just like cook the shit out of, right? And like make a really delicious dish. So like I'm always like interested in like things like that, of like why that is not popular and seen as like less than, but like our food is more flavorful. And a lot, I know at least in like the American West, like a lot of the South flavored their food so heavily because they got the scraps, right?
That made me think too of like eating the rainbow. Like I think in the pyramid or the plate says like all the colors, or maybe it was an older one. It said, I remember reading it, it's like potatoes and French fries don't count. I'm like, that is really harsh to say that just on the plate, or I don't remember which one it was.
You're like, when I toast it turns color.
Yeah. But also like the whole color, like eat the rainbow, and then like what I eat in a day, like it ties so much with the current culture, which triggers a lot with disordered eating. And I'm like, I'm sorry, my meal right now is all brown potatoes, brown stew, brown meat. It's a brown day. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I think the eat the rainbow is like a very like almost, it comes, I feel like, from like the whole like purist raw food movement, which like again we can do another segue another day of like the purity culture in that, right? And the tie to those things, which I think goes back to even like the white rice and the chicken. Like it doesn't need to be seasoned because like this is how it comes, and like we don't need to add extras. Even in when we were reading the food pyramid guidelines, they're like, well, you can season your foods like if preferred, versus like just making it a natural part of like how I would say the global majority eat.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I was like, that's so interesting, like the purity culture of it all.
They have to caveat it. I guess if this helps you eat it, you can do it.
Yeah, it was very interesting how like some phrases said like full, basically like limit, avoid, or reduce, and then there was like one other one, like if preferred, that was the other one, if preferred, and like when they chose to use stronger language and less strong language.
Well, and then
But
it
like
also,
energy drinks for minors were fine.
but we had to limit their caffeine. Mm-hmm. That
Yeah.
part. But also just had, and it said in there too, like, even if you are eating like the way that they are recommending, or the pyramid, right? Whatever shape it is right now, because that shit's like upside down. But what they were like saying in there, like, you gotta like still make sure that you're watching your portion size. I was like, well, excuse me, like, I like enchiladas, I like all these other foods, and if I want to go ahead and eat a little bit more of it, like, I will.
Right.
Right. But it's just going back to that, you know, good versus bad, like, food dichotomy. And then also going back to like that diet culture, right? Guilt and shame if we're not eating a certain way, or if our bowl's not looking, you know, a certain size, right? Or if our plates are looking a little bit larger, you know, this today than they did
Right.
yesterday.
Right. And I think in our prep for this, we even talked about how like there's so much emphasis on like per meal, right?
Mhm.
Which I think does create, like, we know creates a lot of anxiety. Like we all work in eating disorders and people get so hyper focused on like this one meal will make such a difference or make such a change, only
Yes.
negatively. Typically it's never like, oh, for my health,
Right.
you know, that doesn't last. It's like it's such a heavy focus on what I'm eating per meal versus really what it looks like overall over the course, even just the course of a week, right?
Mhm.
And so they're not really teaching people to eat over the course of the week, right? They're
No.
really just like every meal has to be the gold standard, which is what this food pyramid is, and the MyPlate. This is the gold standard, and if you're not doing that, this means X, Y, or Z about you, right? Which is why
Something
I
bad.
think,
Right. Which
which
is a lot of pressure on multiple times a day for you to feel like you passed the test or didn't pass the test, versus giving yourself some grace, right? Especially in this era when we don't have, when accessibility is difficult or we're just stressed the heck out. I'm like, I'm just gonna eat my leftovers, or my, you know, my lunch might look the same.
Mhm.
Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, I think the MyPlate, how it's looked historically and with the food pyramid is equally as not the word negative, but like problematic, where it really doesn't allow for much space or like education for people to really eat how they probably eat normally.
Mm-hmm.
And none of this mentions intuition, joy of eating, culture, holidays, your cues. Are you hungry today? How are you feeling emotionally? Like, none of that. And those are big factors when it comes to eating.
If anything, I think this just kind of strips that away,
Yeah.
right? It takes that away. And I also just think, right, and all of us in whatever capacity we work and have done work in eating disorders, I think of just kind of like some of the models, right, that they use for making sure that, you know, they're eating enough, that our patients are eating enough, or that their plates look a certain way. And it's just kind of like realistically, like, that's something really hard that we're asking,
Yeah.
and that is not really doable for a lot of these folks that are coming in at the level that they are in, right? When it comes to how deep they are in their eating disorder, or even if they're not that deep, like, it's still hard. Like, I could honestly sit here and be like, look, y'all, my plates don't look like that. Like, they're not divided up into like little things like that. Some days I'll freaking eat, like, it's probably too much disclosure, but like white rice, and I'll just slap a little bit of ketchup on it because that's good and I like it, you know? It really, it depends. Like, it's so different for everybody, you know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I like ice cream and chocolate.
Yeah, it's like, what? That sounds like a good
But for
freaking
dinner.
dinner for me. Like, I'm
I'm about to
down.
start my period if no one knew from that tip. But
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Hot Cheeto Puffs and
Oh,
Oreos.
oh my God,
I am a queen for hot Cheeto
destroyed. I destroyed my popcorn. Hot Cheeto popcorn. Oh, I destroyed it.
Puffs.
And that's the other
With
one.
my
Oh,
ice cream.
totally.
That was
Like,
the accompaniment to my ice cream. Where does that go on my plate? Cause
But it's on my pyramid, right? That's like
Yeah, where is it on the pyramid? It's a corn.
Mm.
And
Of
it's
course, the whole
almonds.
grain.
Both were probably on the bottom. Where is that little? Oh, I'll get it later. Can't
It's
find
on the bottom. It is.
Let me see. Yeah.
Oh, the little kernels on the bottom, like
Little
just
corn kernels,
three-
and I
three
think I'm pretty sure
popcorns
that
of
ice
me.
cream was almond milk.
Girl, there was like 3 little elote flakes on there and then like 2 frijolitos. Like, I'm like, what? First of all, I will not just eat 2 little frijolitos in a bowl. Like, give me a burrito. Like,
That
what the
little
heck?
bowl is.
Oh my god, give me a bowl of what is it? Caldo de frijol when you make the black bean stew with some crema and queso fresco.
Mm.
That
So
sounds
good.
so good. So this is healthy. I love our approaches with this. I hope folks are like seeing like this is how the approach should be, honestly.
Yes.
This is what discernment, thinking critically is, with joy, humor, and sticking with what you know is resonates with you, what you like,
Mhm.
what you feel like.
And remembering, right? Like, we don't need to stick to these guidelines. Like, we could really we could create our own pyramid, right? Based
Yeah.
off of our own, preferences, based off of our cultural, and traditional foods, and what we like and what we don't like, right? Like how this episode is called Chinga tu Food Pyramid. Like, yes, we don't need to always follow what they are guiding us to follow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think too, it's like these pyramids or any pyramids, MyPlate, whatever. I think it really hinders people from actually thinking about what they want to eat. Because I think the assumption is this like sense of gluttony in some way that we're gonna eat ice cream every day and cookies and chocolates and donuts and all of those things. And anytime I've had a client who said that, I'm like, try it, do it, go for it. And they're like, what? I'm like, you're gonna burn out by like day 4 or 5. There might be like some staples that you're like, I could eat a cookie every day or whatever, but like rarely as humans, again, we're not as humans. I understand I'm hearing like the ARFID piece in my head where I'm like, different. Same but different. They could probably, well, no, if we actually think about it, ARFID
There's
kid
food
as well,
burnout.
or
Yeah,
ARFID adults are
ARFID
fit,
burns out.
they do burn out. So actually,
Yeah, they do.
back to my point, it might take them a little bit longer.
Right.
Right, but because if we tie in emotions, right, is safety. So it's
Yeah.
not just true cravings or something like that. There's also safety. There's a whole bunch of stimulation that is going into why they chose that food for 3 months every day. But yeah, that is true. They eventually change what they want or burn out or don't want anything. They might not know what they want because all these foods feel unsafe, but there is this natural, I think, humanistic part of ourselves that want something different. Right.
Mhm.
And so I'm slowly losing my train of thought because of the ARFID piece, but because I was like, let me just not
It's a good point
misspeak.
to bring up though, because that also adds distress from that level of that's
Mhm.
nowhere near what I eat. I just eat foods that are bland colors. Even the labeling bland colors is pretty
No.
negative, but
Yeah.
that adds distress. But it's like doesn't mean that the goal for ARFID recovery is to meet this plate or pyramid. It's
Yeah.
what's the context of your life where you want to feel like you have more freedom with eating? Is it to
Right.
eat a little bit more than the bland colors? Is it to travel or eat out with people?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remembered my point now that you said the bland food, but like that we aren't conditioned to like trust our bodies and what we want. Right? Like even just like the food schedule, like we should be hungry for 3 meals and 3 snacks, right? But even if we go back to, and Nico probably knows the history of this, why we even eat 3 times, like why the gold standard is 3 times is from the Industrial Revolution, because you needed to eat breakfast before you went to work, you had a lunch break, and then you had dinner, right? But if you go to other countries, that's not how they eat. They probably will still eat breakfast, but it might be like toast and fruit, right? Or their like lunch might be at like 2 o'clock, and then they take a nap for 4 hours, and then they have dinner at 9 p.m. Like it's interesting what becomes the gold standard and how we've been taught to not trust what we want or trust our bodies in telling us. And I think that's a lot with like what is how people make choices to put on their plate is what they were told they should put on their plate and not what they want to necessarily put on their plate, right? And wanting is like both like the emotional part. Like I wanted ice cream last night. If I didn't have ice cream, I probably wouldn't have gone outside because I didn't want to, but I probably would have just gotten something else, right? So it's like the ability to like, okay, what else do I want versus like, what else do I need to have based on, you know, X, Y, or Z. So I
Right.
think, you know, as we're talking about why the food pyramid and the MyPlate, like what the problems are with that, the reason I also said this is because I want people to be like, well, then what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so then how am I supposed to eat? Which,
Yeah.
you know, we have some
That is
people
the
here
big
you could
question.
hire to help you with that question. But I think ultimately it's like figuring out like, well, why don't I trust myself to make choices for myself?
Mm.
Like, what
And
do I
where's
already
the
know?
disorder in that? Yeah.
Right. What do I already know that maybe I felt like was a no because of food rules that's been instilled, but maybe that was okay and I can go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, going to your point, Stacey, about like schedules and stuff, that's so often now I'm telling people like, if you need to switch your snacking, your meal, go ahead. And if that means you're eating breakfast later because you got to work and have time, fine. You
Rage
started
against the machine, Christina.
or lunch and afternoon snack. Like, hello, can we embody a little hobbit energy here? First breakfast, second
Yes.
breakfast, 11 C's, supper, dinner. That's a date like 6, 7 times, and why not?
She said
That is-
6, 7.
That is the life. I want the hobbit life.
I was like, Christina's trying to get with the kids. But yeah, no, I think it even like being in like working in eating disorders, like really had me obviously. I don't think I would have ever thought like this if I didn't work in eating disorders. I don't think this would have been where my brain went, but the rigidity around the irony of the rigidity around eating disorder treatment of how and what you should eat reflects a lot of the rigidity of the food pyramid and MyPlate of like this is what you should have and when you should have it and how much you should have of it versus letting, you know, clients at any phase really have any autonomy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I wonder if part of that is the fear of safety, like the refeeding risk and this and that. And it's like, well, we work with it. Let's get the actual facts and know if that is a concern rather than instilling this other rigid rule for them to have to follow.
Yeah, like what if they actually just obviously for business purposes they can't just choose whatever they want to eat every day because a chef can't cook those meals, but you know this could be our segue into the MyPlate where it's like what would their plate look like if they could create it, and why do we fucking care if it actually hits what we need to do?
Right.
I don't care if they're drinking Ensure week 3 of residential. They're in residential. They were not eating shit before here. Why does it matter? Or they were getting rid of everything that they were eating. So like, again, why does it matter? Like, what if we just let people eat what they want? And then when they bump up against something, then they come to us and be like, so I have a date to go on and I don't want to bring my Ensure. Oh, tell me more about that.
Speaking
Right?
of,
Like, hey, I want to play soccer with my friends after school, but I don't have enough fuel to do that. So like, mom, what do I need to do?
Mm-hmm.
another difficult part with treatment programs too, if it's in person where they're providing meals that I've heard many a times is like, I just did not like the food they provided. I struggled to eat even more than I would have.
Oh my God.
Yep.
So
who worked in person treatment centers now? Ugh.
thankfully.
I did the same thing for 7.5 years. And it was all like my criticism at year 7 was that this menu is whitewashed. Like they try to include diversity at one point. But it was like Taco Bell tacos. It was like the crunchy shell. And then they put like hard-boiled eggs in. They try to make like a pho.
Oh.
And they're like, and then the add-on was hard-boiled eggs. I'm like, y'all know hard-boiled eggs don't typically go in pho, right? That's ramen. We're in the wrong agencies here. And like, ugh.
So there's a
I'm
lot
like, who
there,
eats like
too.
this? No, but I literally always bitch about this to one of my friends because even just people who needed to be at a higher meal plan, they would just increase the portions. And I'm like, people who like I'm 5'10", like I'm a tall human. I tend to eat more than most because I'm like a foot taller than everybody. And so I was like, I don't eat like that. I don't eat a half a cup of peanut butter with 2 apples for snack.
Yeah.
Like I'll eat
Ugh.
peanut butter, apples, maybe some chips, a lemonade. Like I'm making a little bored.
Mm-hmm.
And like the people who are making these menus, just had no indication of actually, I think, how that section off people eat, right? Like it's a
Mhm.
blend of things. Like I want to make something a meal or have an add-on, right? Because they got rid of like the place I worked for got rid of add-ons at one point. And I'm like, you're not actually showing people how to like create something that actually is really tasty.
Mm-hmm.
And like minus, I know sometimes with eating disorders they don't want something that's tasty, but like offer. At
I
least
mean,
I've
if
done
the
that.
whole thing is, oh, we have to prepare you for this uncomfortable moment, offering now is also preparation.
Yeah, if they want to eat a half a cup of peanut butter and 2 apples because that's what makes them feel safe, cool. But like people who actually like want to be able to eat, which is what honestly most of the clients, like most of the clients were always like, "What the fuck is this?" I'd be
Right.
like,
I don't
Oh
either.
my
"I
God.
didn't make it." But it's
That's
it
true.
was really happy to work of like, no, this isn't fair, and this is not really how people eat.
Right.
If
Mhm.
you could make, and this goes back to the MyPlate, then I would ask them, if you could make this better, what would it look like? And they had great ideas.
Yeah.
Sometimes they were a little orthorexic, but for the most part, they were really great. Because I'm like, okay, yeah, you can have those green, remember those green fried sugar snap peas?
Oh, yeah.
They were wild about for a minute. I was like, cool, add those. I was like, you're going to have this much of those, but like, and they were like, oh, I don't want that many. I'm like, oh, okay. Then what can we add on the side of that? Right? And like, yes, there's anxiety about growing that plate visually, I think, for
Mhm.
obviously for most
Right.
people with eating disorders, but it's like they're also choosing that process, which I think, as we all have seen, like when they choose it, they're a lot more likely to feel successful at it, even if they're not finishing it.
Yeah.
Because
For
they're like, oh,
sure.
at least I kind of got what I liked. And then we can deal with the emotions of like actually enjoying food and therapy. But like,
These are building blocks. Like you got to start with
mhm,
something, but that one step has to resonate with the person. It can't be this copy and paste, slap it on for everyone thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mhm.
I don't know. I'll say, I think we've all provided like super great examples of things we would want on our plates, no matter what the shape or size ended up being. But I,
Mhm.
I think I also want to like put a little plug out there for people. You know, if you're listening, you're thinking, like, where do I even start building mine? Like, a few guiding questions could be helpful, right? Like, thinking about what you're gonna make. I don't know, what do you even consider health for yourself, right? Like, and how does that influence your culture? If you wanted to represent what you grew up eating, what makes you feel safe and comfortable? And in those, expanding to like offshooting questions, thinking about, okay, this is my concept and idea of health. Of these things, how much is bringing me joy? What's making me feel energized? What's providing me that comfort again? And now we can organize ourselves into, what do we want this to actually look like? And you can go and make it a little arts and craft project and put it in your room or on your phone or get super fancy with it, right? But like, think of a shape, think of a color palette that you want to use for your visuals. And if you want to go old school, get some magazines and cut some things out, pull those glue sticks and get creative with it. If anybody wants to show us what they end up making, we can see those over on
Mhm.
Instagram. But I think the possibilities are endless.
We'll work on
Mhm.
ours. I know we're going to try to make our own. Another is
Yeah.
Pinterest too. Pinterest is a good
Yes.
one. Like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know. We had a lot of super great things to say. Does anybody have any like last minute burning thought or little tidbit they want to put out there?
I can't think of anything other than what we shared.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just trust your gut.
That part.
Cute.
Good one. No, dude, this was super great. I really hope you all found this helpful. And honestly, like, don't forget, these models were created in specific systems
Mhm.
at specific moments without us at the table, like always. And so this isn't a standard you should hold yourself to. And if you're ever questioning it, come back to what you know. Our bodies hold a lot of wisdom, and you've kept yourself alive this long. So we
Yes.
must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
And
there's a statistic that Latinos live the longest. Just putting that out there. Despite
okay.
having certain heart
Yeah.
disease and predispositions for that, we still live the longest.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
All
And then
right.
also too, a reference that I wanted to mention because I kept forgetting. Your Latina nutritionist came out with like a book of like anti-diet culture and like how to like more of like a how to eat guide, and has a bunch of like free resources. So if you really are like, what do you mean? What am I supposed to eat after watching this? I would plug that reference in because
Yeah.
she just I think came out with it last year and then has like a bunch of little free things. But the book I heard is really nice.
Perfect. We can put that in the description along with the actual food pyramid and dietary guidelines for anyone that's curious. But yeah, we'll make sure to share more about this on Instagram. So thanks again, everybody.